Everyone's saying AI will replace jobs. So I put it to the test. I wanted to see if it would actually replace my team, and I put AI in charge of my business for 30 days. Honestly, the results scared me. Here's exactly what happened. So here's a 30-day experiment, 7 roles, one AI, and here's what happened. Before I even started this test, everything was slowing me down. I had way too many roles, I had way too many tasks, not enough hours, and I was just spending too much money. So things like emails and admin, I just lost too much time in my inbox. That was the most annoying point. Meetings and schedules, back-to-back calls, kept diving in, and then people would kind of cancel calls. I wouldn't find out. I'll be waiting on a call for up to 30 minutes and realizing that it's been cancelled. All of the content and research that I've been doing, I've been either outsourcing or doing it myself. So posts and reports and scripts, they would just post you. People were not giving me what I needed, or I wasn't finding the exact details I wanted. And honestly, the most important one, just having multiple tasks for multiple different things and all this context switching, which means every single task was pulling me from one thing that I needed to do into things that I didn't need to do. I needed to change. So the 30-day experiment. One rule was to use Claude for everything possible, track everything, every result, and see where I lasted and see where I stood at the end of the 30 days. So I'm just going to look at time saved, money saved, quality, so output compared to what human work was, and also importantly, my stress level, so what my mental load looked like before and also afterwards. Now, honestly, I had no idea what would happen here. I was super open to the experiment, but at the same time, I really had no idea if it would work, what would change, and what would stay the same. So look, this is my experience I'm sharing with you today. One caveat, your results may vary. Maybe you'll do this and nothing will change. Maybe you'll do this and everything will change. These are my results. So jobs 1 and 2, I outsourced to Claude was an executive assistant and content writing. Now with my executive assistant, Claude handled emails, schedules, meeting summaries, which is very cool, daily priorities, without a single follow-up needed. So it was able to act as my assistant, which I was kind of paying a VA to do that in the first place, but it was doing it more flawlessly and more seamlessly, and also without mistakes. Secondly, content writing, so it was doing my scripts, newsletters, and blog posts, and even my tweets and LinkedIn management. Now, some of this I did do before with AI. So, for example, my newsletters, but I wasn't doing my LinkedIn posts with Claude and also my scripts on YouTube. So I pulled it all into Claude and it drafted everything in minutes. Now, my workload was a brief, then to Claude, then a light edit, then publish. So I did still do some work, but I saved ridiculous amounts of hours. Up to 12 hours across both roles combined. This was my first win, okay? I kind of started here and I was like, what's going to happen next? Now, while you're here, I do want to share with you the one prompt that changed everything. If you want this, look in the description below. But this was the game changer for me throughout this whole experiment. It was act as my role. Your goal is going to be objective. The context will be, and I gave it the background, the constraints, the limitations, the output style. I used this prompt, which is just the first part of it, and it completely changed my business. If you want this prompt and all the other prompts in this experiment, add your name to the email list below. Check the first link in the description, and I'll send it to you right now. Let's carry on. So jobs 3 and 4 were a research analyst and project manager. Now I was researching. Now research for me is one of the dullest things that I do in my business, and it's one of the first things that I outsource. So I asked Claude to act as my market research competitive analysis. Asked it to check through my customer insights, all my clients' information, and also do product comparisons and summarize it in minutes and not days, and give me charts. Okay, I work really well with graphs and charts because sometimes the numbers and the text just all muddle up. All looks the same to me. But when I see a chart, I understand it and it makes sense. Secondly, I asked it to act as a project manager. I gave it tasks, deadlines, and checklists. I also gave it weekly planning, okay? I'm not great at planning sometimes. So I asked it to do all the planning for me and again, put it into an interactive chart and prioritize things that I needed to do and deprioritize things that I didn't need to do, push it down to the end of the week where I had more time. It organized it for me without a single missed deliverable. And honestly, usually, and this saves me a ridiculous amount of time. Also for me, when I have more time, I'm able to do more things that make more money. So it kind of made me more money too. So this was a win, which I was again surprised about. Now, jobs 5 and 6 was customer support and business consultant. Now, usually I have VAs that do all my customer support for me, but to make this a actual real test, I put it all into Claude and I asked it to reply to all of the drafts. So for my clients, any FAQ creations that I need to do. I asked it to do knowledge-based articles and also support documentation for anything new that I was creating. This was deployed and ready to go, and the response time dropped dramatically because there was less mistakes. I had consistency across my brand, across all of my replies, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's X, or even in my school community. And hours of repetitive work was eliminated. Now, probably the highest revenue generating task for me was when I asked it to act as a business consultant. So I asked it to do strategy sessions, SWOT analysis, and marketing ideas for my current business. and put it all in this decisions frameworks that's available whenever I need it. It brainstormed, it gave me unbiased strategic perspectives across my entire business, and was made things a lot faster and more clearer for my decision making process. Now, to be fair, I can't really put a metric on that because increasing my productivity, it's difficult to find out exactly how much more money I made. But knowing things like my SWOT analysis, which is my strength, my weaknesses, my opportunities, and my threats, made things a lot easier and clearer for me to identify what to do and what not to do. Now, with all that said, there are loads of things that I replaced in my business, but what Claude I don't think personally replaces is human relationships. So that's trust that built in person to person. Sales calls, which I think can be replaced, but I personally right now prefer to do sales calls myself, or probably hire out to someone that does this full time, because I think you can't really outsource real emotion and knowing what to say and what not to say when someone's on a sales call. Emotionally, I don't think you can do and replace with AI currently. Emotional creativity. So sometimes things can be creatively added to my business that sometimes not able to do with AI. So for example, every now and again, I just give away free stuff to my people in my community, to people that are outreaching to me via email. I'll just give them free access to my memberships, or maybe a free report, or even a free consultation, which generally AI wouldn't recommend. But I just feel compassion for that person, so I give them something for free. And also leadership. Although you can automate the process, I think inspiring teams really can't be automated. It just comes naturally, or you can learn it. So look, the numbers doesn't lie. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So these are the hours that it saved me. Remember I said I tracked everything. The admin and emails put into Claude instead. So I was able to save 8 hours a week. The content creation was probably my biggest time saver. So I was able to save all of the content creation, plug it into Claude, moving away from VAs and moving away from doing it myself, over 10 hours a week. Research, which I hate doing. So even half an hour to me would have been beneficial, but it saved up to 6 hours. Project management was around 5 hours, and customer support, I don't do that often. I usually hire to a VA, so it didn't save as much time. But still, 4 hours a week for a month was good enough for me to see it as manageable. In general, content output tripled and meetings reduced by 40%, which you may think is a bad thing, but many meetings don't actually need to take place and they just take up my calendar because potential clients need to be qualified first. Generally, my stress levels dropped, which is always a good thing, and that would be an undeniable ROI. So I managed to save over 33 hours a week, which is over like 120 hours in a month, which is just insane. I was able to outsource 7 different roles with Claude. And in general, this was difficult to track exactly, but I managed to save around $4,000 in monthly value reclaimed back into my hands. Then I can put that resources elsewhere. So look, honestly, did Claude replace my team? No, it didn't, because I still have a team and they still manage the Claude outputs and inputs for me. But it did replace the work holding them back and also me back. So the real win is that my team now spends time on work that only humans can actually do: strategy, creativity, relationships, and potentially leadership. And for me, that is the real win here, not just financial value, but working with my team smarter and grabbing my time back and doing more important things with them. So, question for you: if you had Claude tomorrow, which job would you replace first? Drop it in the comments below. And of course, subscribe for any weekly Claude AI updates and tutorials, automation tips, and practical workflows. It's all on this channel. And of course, add your name to the email list below if you want to get those prompts. That's it from this video. Hope it's been a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.